In Hebrew culture, 30 pieces of silver was not a lot of money. In fact, it was the exact price paid to the master of a slave if and when his slave was gored by an ox. Exodus chapter 21 verse 32. The slave's death was compensated by the 30 pieces of silver. There are two other places in the Bible that specifically mention the amount of 30 pieces of silver, and they are directly linked. The first passage is in Zechariah, which contains a prophecy that is later fulfilled in the book of Matthew. Leading up to the prophecy of the 30 pieces of silver is a description of a strange episode in Zechariah's life. God had the prophet Zechariah play the part of a shepherd and care for a flock, doomed to slaughter. Zechariah chapter 11 verses 4 to 14. God used this to illustrate a prophetic judgment against Israel for crucifying Christ, predicting the fall of Israel in AD 70 and the subsequent scattering of the nation. There are several elements in this passage that point to it as a prophecy about Jesus. First, Zechariah says he got rid of the 3 shepherds of the doomed flock, verse 8. The 3 shepherds are probably a reference to the 3 religious offices during Jesus' day that worked to condemn Jesus: the elders, the scribes, and the chief priests. Matthew chapter 16 verse 21. Second, Zechariah breaks his 2 shepherding staffs. One is named favor and is broken to symbolize the breaking of the Mosaic covenant by the disobedient people and God setting aside his favor or providential care to allow judgment to come upon them. Zechariah chapter 11 verse 10. The second staff, named union, is broken to represent the breaking up of the nation by the Romans. Another prophetic reference is found in the 30 pieces of silver given to Zechariah after his work as a shepherd. He went to those he worked for and asked them to pay him what they thought he was worth. They gave him 30 pieces of silver, which he sarcastically calls a handsome price, because it was such a small amount. Zechariah chapter 11 verse 13. The price paid for a slave's accidental death. The employers meant to insult Zechariah with this amount of money. Returning the insult, God tells Zechariah to throw it to the potter, and Zechariah tossed the money into the house of the Lord to be given to the potter. These actions are a shockingly accurate and detailed prophecy, for when Judas Iscariot bargained with the leaders of Israel to betray the Lord Jesus, he asked, "What are you willing to give me if I deliver him over to you?" The murderous cabal then counted out for Judas 30 pieces of silver. Matthew chapter 26 verse 15. That's all they considered Jesus to be worth. Later, Judas was overcome with guilt for betraying Jesus, and, fulfilling Zechariah's vivid prophecy, he threw the 30 silver coins into the temple. Matthew chapter 27 verses 3 to 5. The Jewish leaders used the 30 pieces of silver to buy a field from a potter, again as Zechariah had predicted. Matthew chapter 27 verses 6 to 10. It was in that field that Judas hanged himself. He chose to end his life, instead of repenting and begging Jesus for forgiveness.